Squats can be a pretty difficult exercise to learn, and especially when you're a beginner, you may actually have some limitations with hip mobility and ankle mobility that prevent you from doing them correctly. So in those kind of situations, what we'll do is we'll do a lot more mobility drills and whatnot to work you up to where you can actually correctly do a squat. We don't want to start down the path of doing squats and start to eventually adding weight and whatnot and really strengthening those areas when there's some dysfunction going on that's not allowing you to actually execute them correctly. So what I'm going to do right now is kind of go through some basics of the body weight squat, what the form is going to look like and should look like, so we can kind of assess, you know, is this something that you're ready for now? Do we need to kind of ratchet it back a little bit and do some mobility drills and keep working on the flexibility and getting the body more ready to do so? So with the body weight squat, typically what you'll see when you have a beginner that hasn't actually learned the squat yet is there's going to be a tendency to want to come straight down. And when you do that, what you tend to see happen is as you come down, your knees start to come forward, they go out over the toes, you start to run into some mobility issues with the ankle, the heels start to come off the floor, and you're trying to drive your weight back up with your toes. You can't really get that low because the limiting factor really tends to be in the ankles and a lot of times the hips as well. So what we really want to try to work towards is we don't want it to be a straight down motion. What you want to have happen is you want the squat to start by your hips coming backward. And that's why I actually have a chair behind me. It's like you're going to sit in a chair. You want your hips to come back as you bend, and I'm touching the chair and I'm coming back up. You'll notice that my knees aren't drifting out too far past my toes, which is going to help prevent any kind of knee issues with the patellar tendon and whatnot, less strain in that area. So my hips are coming back, I'm tapping the chair, and I'm coming back up. Notice that I'm not coming straight down. My back's staying straight, my head and shoulders are squared and up, my hips are driving back, I'm tapping the chair, and I'm coming back up. You start, you may not, when you're first learning the squat, be able to come to a full, thighs parallel to the floor, deep squat, and come back up, but you can work up to that. It's really that mobility that we want to build in those areas before we're really getting that full depth. Okay, so once you kind of understand that hip hinge is actually what it's called, where your hips start to come back, you're going back towards the chair, the butt comes down to the chair and then comes back up. Once you start to kind of get the hang of that and you're not going straight up and down anymore, what you want to do before you'd really be ready to actually start using a load, like whether it be a barbell or dumbbells or whatever it may be, you want to make sure also that your upper body's not coming too far forward. A lot of times, again, with these mobility issues, you'll see people that are trying to get down, so they're leaning too far forward to try to make that happen. So we want to make sure that that's not going on as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a wall like I have in front of me. You're going to step about a foot or so in front of it, and we're going to do that same squat motion where the hips come back, you go down like you're going to the chair, and we're going to see that I'm not banging the wall or anything like that. I have a good distance, I can come back up, my heels stay on the floor, and actually when you're doing the squat, you actually want to drive off of the heels, not the toes, so that's where my pushing is coming from, is the heels. So when those start to come off the floor, we're already breaking that form, and we really want to make some tweaks to how we're doing that. So once we get comfortable with that 12-inch range off of the wall, you want to go a little bit closer and get to about 6 to 8 inches off the wall. You can still come down. I'm not touching the wall. My thighs coming parallel to the ground. I can come back up. I'm good. I'm pushing off my heels. That's when we're going to be ready to start incorporating that load into it. And I'll have subsequent videos after that with goblet squats and dumbbell squats and loaded weights and stuff like that. But once we get these basic elements mastered, then you're ready to move on. If you're not ready for this yet, we'll just keep working on that mobility and flexibility until you are ready.